everyone. Welcome to our marathon seminar. Today is our last seminar from the series, and we have a special guest. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Camila. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for being with us.
Yeah.
Today we are going to talk about early childhood education and care, ECEC. And I'm going to start with the question that everybody's asking. Tim, is child care still a good migration pathway?
I will say yes and no. So if you would like to know why, then let's have a look at our today's seminar. So shall we start?
Yes.
Okay. So this is today's agenda for the seminar. So firstly, I will talk about why should international students study ECEC in Australia, and what are the occupations that related to ECEC, and what are the migration pathway after completing the ECEC degrees. And then Camila will talk about some recommended schools and programs. And lastly, we'll have a Q&A section. If you have any question, just feel free to type in the chat box. And then our counselor will pick up some questions and we can answer all the questions together. Okay. So first of all, why should international students study ECEC in Australia? So actually, childcare center worker, childcare center manager, or early childhood teacher are actually in demand in Australia because especially under COVID season. So a lot of childcare centers are full. So we need to build up a lot of new childcare centers, and we need that kind of occupations in Australia. Secondly, in Australia, we can get paid what we are worth. And then the tuition fees for ECEC programs, especially for Certificate 3 and Diploma of ECEC, are relatively cheap and affordable for international students, unlike most bachelor or masters. So another thing is about the curriculum structure within the ECEC programs. So most schools, they will include the placement units and placement hours in their degree, which Camila will talk about it later in the recommended school section. And finally, I think it is one of the most important points that you will be able to get PR if you satisfy the requirements. So let's have a look at the brief idea about how much you can earn after you completing the ECEC course. So for early childhood educator, childcare center manager, or early childhood teacher, you can expect to earn more than 50K per year in Australia. And the average salary will be around 63K. So this is about the salary parts. So after salary parts, I would like to talk about the different occupations that related to ECEC. And I think this is one of the most frequently asked questions. So we got a lot of questions from students, like after completing the ECEC course, can I be the early childhood teacher or the childcare center worker? So I will explain it by comparison about childcare center manager, childcare center worker, as well as early childhood teacher, about what qualification you need, what course you need to study. So let's have a look about the job duty first. So for childcare center manager, it is more like a managerial role. You need to manage the whole childcare center instead of caring baby. It is more like you need to manage the staff, manage all the activities, and have some budget control as well. And for childcare center worker, is more like a junior position. You just need to take care of the babies and get some supervision of the baby in the daycare center or childcare center. But for early childhood teacher, it is more like teaching preschool students, like around age 5 to 6. Then you need to teach them the speech, reading, writing skills. So they have different job duties. So the qualification requirement and the English level for these three occupations will be different. So have a look. This is a very detailed chart. I hope you can see clearly. So firstly, I believe it is also the most important thing regarding skill migration. So Australian Department of Home Affairs, they have different occupation lists that you can apply for different type of visa after graduation and probably the skill assessment stuff. And for childcare center manager and early childhood teacher, they are on the MLTSSL, which means medium and long-term strategic skills list. While childcare center worker, it is on the ROL, regional occupation list. So for different occupation lists, you will have different pathway to obtain PR after graduation. So for childcare center manager and early childhood teacher, you will be eligible to apply for 1A9 skill independent visa, 190 state nomination visa, 4A2 and 1A6, which is the employer sponsorship. For 491 is regional state nomination. For 494 is regional employer sponsorship, which will give you pathway to 191. 191 is the PR pathway for 494. But for childcare center worker, it can only be eligible to apply for 494, regional employer sponsorship, or DAMA agreement. DAMA is Destination Area Migration Agreement, which can give you opportunity to apply through the 4A2 employer sponsorship labor agreement stream, and will give you pathway to PR 1A6 visa later. So the skill assessment authority for childcare center manager and childcare center worker are same, which is ACECQA, Australian Children's Education and Care Quality Authority. But the skill assessment authority for early childhood teacher is different. It is AITSL, Australian Institute for Teaching and School Leadership. So you may have the question, what is skill assessment? So skill assessment is to determine whether you will be eligible for some occupation. If you only study that related course, it doesn't mean that you can pass the skill assessment. So skill assessment is compulsory for some visa, like 189, skill independent, 190, 491, they are all compulsory to provide a positive skill assessment. So for the skill assessment, for qualification requirements for childcare center manager and childcare center worker, they're same. They require you to have a related diploma or higher in ECEC. But for early childhood teacher, because you need to teach the baby, teach the preschool students, you need to have at least a bachelor or higher. You can have a bachelor or have a master in early childhood education, especially in teaching. So this is the qualification difference regarding skill assessment qualification requirements. And then for the English language requirements, you may have heard that the English requirement is pretty high, and it is yes. For they require IELTS academic version, you need to achieve speaking and listening for 8 and reading and writing 7. But if you have 1 year studies in tertiary or higher education in Australia, you can waive the English requirement for childcare center manager or childcare center worker. But for, again, for early childhood teacher, because you need to teach, so the waiver requirement will be higher. You need to have at least completed 4 years full-time studies in higher education in Australia to waive the English requirement.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Can only be IELTS?
Yes, currently they only accept IELTS.
Okay.
Or you can use the 4-year full-time studies to waive the IELTS requirements. Okay. Yeah. And then one of the other most frequently asked question is about working experience. Yeah. Is it working experience required to pass the skill assessment? I would say yes for childcare center manager and childcare center worker. So for childcare center manager, you need to have 3 years post-qualification working experience as the childcare center manager. And this will be the most difficult parts for some graduates to obtain permanent residence through 189 or 190 or 491, because normally after graduation, we can apply for graduate visa, which I will talk about it later. And it will be quite challenging to obtain 3 years full-time experience as the manager level. And actually, the Department of Home Affairs just changed the skill assessment authority from TRA to ACECQA back in 2019. So previously they only require 1 year full-time working experience, but now they changed to 3 years, which makes a lot of graduates quite difficult to pass the skill assessment as the childcare center manager. But for early childhood teacher, there will be no working experience required to pass the skill assessment. So this is the comparison about the PR pathway as well as the skill assessment requirements. If you are still unclear or you want to know more about, just type in our chat box and then we can answer later in our Q&A section. Yeah. So after graduation, normally the pathway will be applying for the 45 visa first. As I mentioned, so there will be 2 different streams. It doesn't really related to childcare studies, but it is for all occupation actually. For 45, because the Department of Home Affairs will have 2 different streams. The first stream is graduate work stream, which targets those who complete a related studies on the MLT SSL, and they can pass the provisional skill assessment, and then they will be eligible to apply for the 45 visa under the graduate work stream. So the visa duration for graduate work stream will be 1.5 years, while the other stream is for post-study work stream. It targets those who complete a bachelor honors, master or PhD studies in Australia, and they will be eligible to get a 2 to 6 years visa. Why do I say 2 to 6 years? So normally for bachelor, master, graduate, they can apply for 2 years 45 visa. For master research graduate, they can apply for 3 years. And for PhD graduate, they can apply for 4 years. However, because the Australian government would like to encourage international students to study in regional area. So if you study in regional area and live there, then you can get extra 1 to 2 years 45 visa. And for regional area, the Department of Home Affairs also define which is the regional center, which is the more regional area. So if you study in regional center, for example, like Gold Coast or Adelaide City, you can only get 1 extra year for the 45 visa. But if you study in a more regional area, for example, like Northern Territory or Launceston in Tasmania, then you can get 2 more years working visas. If you only completed diploma studies in regional area and would like to apply for graduate work stream, there will be no opportunity to obtain further 45 visa. So remember, the extra 45 visa is only applicable for PSW stream, for those who complete a bachelor, master, or PhD, not eligible for graduate work stream. Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look. So normally for the 45 visa stream, if we only complete a diploma and certificate in ECEC, but no bachelor, you can only apply for graduate work stream, and it will be 1.5 years. And you will need to nominate as the childcare center manager. For early childhood teacher, there will be no issue because they need to study bachelor or master, then they can apply for PSW stream. Exclude those who came to Australia very early, before 5th of November 2011. If they apply their first student visa before 5th of November 2011, they will not be eligible to apply for PSW stream. But for all other international students who apply for their first student visa after 5th of November 2011, they will be eligible to apply for PSW stream. So here we have another term as provisional skill assessment. So provisional skill assessment is mainly to help students who completed a related studies in the MLT SSL, but probably they can't pass the full skill assessment. So for ACECQA, the skill assessment authority for childcare center manager, they have a provisional skill assessment for newly graduate. So they only need to have a diploma or above related degree related to ECEC, and then they have 240 placement hours, they can pass the provisional skill assessment and apply for 1.5 years graduate work 485 visa. And for early childhood teacher, there will be no requirement for skill assessment because it is under PSW stream.
Okay.
And for the qualification requirement, as I just mentioned, it is a certificate 3 plus a diploma of ECEC, and the course registration duration must be equal or more than 92 weeks. And for early childhood teacher, it must be a bachelor or master, and the program registration also need to be at least 92 weeks. And some general requirement for 485 visa, you need to satisfy Australian study requirement, which is the course registration must be equal or more than 92 weeks, and you need to study for at least 60 months. And then you need to have the IELTS or PT or TOEFL. For IELTS, it is 6 for overall with no band less than 5. And I believe some of you are taking PTE. So for PTE, the requirement will be overall 50 with no band less than 36. And you need to purchase a overseas visitor health cover. It is different with the student health cover. It is called OVHC. And you need to pass the character assessment. Namely, you need to pass the Australian Federal Police check, and you need to undertake the medical check as well. So this is some general requirement for 485 visa. And the duration, like we just mentioned, 1.5 years for graduate work stream, 2 to 6 years for PSW stream, depending on your qualification and whether you have studied and live in regional area.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the first step after graduation. Normally, you will apply for 485 visa first, and then this is the PR pathway.
Yes.
So I have categorized in different pathway for different occupations. So firstly, for childcare center manager, you will need to complete a certificate 3 and a diploma in ECEC first, and then you apply for 1.5 years 485 visa, and then you need to accumulate 3 years working experience as the childcare center manager to pass the skill assessment, and then apply for 189, 190, or 491 or 482 visa. However, as the 485 visa only has 1.5 years, so you need to figure out what type of other visa you can apply to have another 1.5 years full-time working experience to pass the skill assessment. So normally, it can be the dependent visa under 485, or it can be the dependent visa under a master student visa. This kind of visa can give you full-time working rights.
This part's kind of tricky.
Yeah, quite tricky. And I think it is beneficial for those who have a partner.
Yeah.
But if you're single, I'm sorry, but you need to figure out other visa options after the 485 visa. And currently, as the COVID situation, the Department of Home Affairs, they have introduced a 408 COVID visa. If you're working in the aged care or child care industry, you can apply for 1 year 408 visa, give you the full-time working rights. If you have interest about the 408 visa, you can also type in the checkbox and we can discuss later.
Yes.
Yeah. The second one is for childcare center worker. As for the childcare center worker, the first 2 steps will be the same with the childcare center manager. You will need to complete a certificate 3 and diploma in ECEC first, and then apply for 185 years 485 visa. But you need to nominate as the childcare center manager first for the 485 visa, because childcare center worker is not on the MLTSSL. Yes. But after 485 visa, you can use the 1.5 years to accumulate 1 year full-time working experience as the childcare center group leader to pass the skill assessment. And then you can seek opportunity as the 494 or designated area migration agreements.
It's the demo one. So the childcare center worker would be only for regional area.
Yeah. For childcare center worker, I would say yes, because it is only on the regional occupation list. So you will need to find job opportunity in regional area. Otherwise, you can use childcare center manager or early childhood teacher to pursue PR pathway.
Okay.
Yeah. And the next one is about early childhood teacher. So here I divided into two different pathways. The first pathway is you go into a bachelor or master in early childhood teaching straight away. And then you will have 2 to 4 years 45 visa, depending whether you study in regional area or not. And then you can pass the skill assessment, as there will be no working experience required for skill assessment. Then you can accumulate your points, you can take PDE or IELTS, and to increase your points, and then to apply for 189, 190, or 491. And for early childhood teacher, it is on many states' state nomination list. But as there were a lot of information, I can't go through all, but we can, if you have like interest in this area, we can have the next seminar talking about the state nomination. Yeah. Okay. The other pathway, a very interesting pathway, will be you can choose to complete Certificate 3 and Diploma in ECEC first. So because for early childhood teacher, you will need to graduate and get registration as the early childhood teacher, then you can find employment. But for early childhood educator or early childhood childcare center worker, after your Certificate 3 or during your Certificate 3, you can start to find employment, part-time or casual, to support your studies and living expenses in Australia. So a lot of students will choose the last pathway. They would like to choose to study Certificate 3 and Diploma first. After the Diploma, they are not going for 1.5 years. They will start to do a Bachelor of Early Childhood Education. And you will be eligible. I can't guarantee you can get 1.5 or 2 years credit transfer, but normally it will be 1 year credit transfer into your bachelor, which means you only need to study 3 years, another 3 years for the bachelor degree. And then you can apply for 2 to 4 years 45 visa, and then to go through 189, 190, or 491. Yeah, so this is the most frequently pathway for childcare related occupation, childcare center manager, childcare center worker, or early childhood teacher. And from my perspective, probably I will recommend the last one, but it also depends on your own situation. If you would like to go strictly to bachelor and master, that's totally okay. But probably you don't have that kind of much budget. You may need to get some employment during your studies, then probably you can consider the last pathway. Then you start with a Cert 3 and Diploma first, and then go to Bachelor, and then 45 visa, and then PR pathway.
Yeah, because you can work while you're studying.
Yeah, because for the third pathway, you cannot work as the early childhood teacher until you graduate and get registration. Yeah, so many students will choose the fourth pathway. Yeah. Okay, so like I said, this is the comparison about whether I should choose Certificate 3 and Diploma in ECEC or a Bachelor or Master in Early Childhood Teaching. So I listed some pros and cons about two different areas. So normally for ECEC course, like Cert 3 and Diploma, the IELTS language requirement will be much lower. It only requires 5.5 for IELTS. While for early childhood teaching, normally for bachelor, some school require 6.5, some school will require 7.5. Okay. Yeah, so will be much higher compared to ECEC. And the other one is about tuition fees, of course. For certificate and diploma package, the 2 years program, the total tuition fee will be around 15K. Yeah. But for university studies, like a bachelor or master, normally it will be around 30K. Yeah. So it will be like 3 times more. So
per year, right?
Yeah, for per year. But for Cert 3 and diploma, the total.
For 2 years.
Yes. Yeah. 2 years is only 15K. So the duration for ECEC program, the package will be 2 years. While for early childhood teaching, if it is a bachelor degree, it will be 4 years. For master, it will be 2 years. Yeah.
For the master ones, what is the background required? Can anyone study the master?
Actually depends on the school. For early childhood teaching, normally there will be no requirement for background knowledge. But some schools, like the universities in Adelaide, they may have specific requirements. Like you need to have some art studies or science studies in your previous bachelor degree. Yeah.
Something related.
Yeah, something
Yes.
related.
Okay.
Yeah. But for bachelor, of course, no background requirements. For master, it depends on the school.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so this is the comparison about how to choose whether I should study ECEC or early childhood education in teaching. Yeah.
I would say that if you are not sure if you wanted to pursue this
Yes.
occupation as your migration pathway, you can start with the certificate and diploma.
Yes.
And maybe move forward to
To bachelor.
To the bachelor. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now I think it comes to the school recommendation part. So I will hand it to Camila.
Yeah. So we have talked about some requirements to start your studies. So if you're thinking of studying early childhood, you need at least 5.5 IELTS or equivalent to start the certificate, or previous studies in Australia can also be used as a pathway to waive the English. Usually the package is the certificate 3 and the diploma that has to be at least 92 weeks. You mentioned it many times. It has to be registered at CRICOS as well, so you can have the pathway for your graduate visa. Usually the schools offer the work placement, so you have some practical classes as well. Depending on the course and the stage of the course, and the certificate 3, usually you have the 204 hours and another 120 hours in the certificate 3 and the 240 hours for the diploma, and the total 360 hours. We have some schools that we can recommend to you guys. We have QAT here in Brisbane. We have TAFE for the major cities, Brisbane, Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne, and Tasmania. We have Queensford in Melbourne, Sydney, in Brisbane. We have Shafstone here in Brisbane as well. And we also have Charlton Brown in Brisbane. Yeah. So if you have any question about the schools or the courses, you can email any of our counselors and you can provide more information about that. Let's move forward for the
Q&A.
Yes.
Yes. So if you have any question, just type in the chat box, and then our friendly staff will give us the question to answer. But before, probably you don't have the question in mind at the moment, so probably Camila can ask some general question that we came up with our previous students.
So we have some here. So first question is, what's the best state or city to get PR as a child care center manager?
I will say, if you study and work in regional area, you will get more opportunities because it's quite competitive in big cities like Melbourne, Sydney, or Brisbane to get a job as the childcare center manager if you just graduate from school. Normally, they require you to have some experience before. But if you study or work in regional area, probably it's not that competitive. So you have higher chance to get the position as the childcare center manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long should I work in the area to be eligible for PR? I think we talked about these.
Yep, I think for childcare center manager, the working experience requirement to pass the school assessment again will be 3 years. And then for childcare center worker, the requirement will be 1 year. For early childhood teacher, no working experience required. Yeah. But if you would like to get state nomination, different state will have different working experience requirements, which we can discuss in next seminar if you are interested. Yeah.
Yes, sure. What are the requirements after qualification to apply for PR in the area for visas 189 and 491?
Okay, for 189, skill independent visa. First of all, you need to have a occupation nominated on MLT-SSL, medium and long-term skill strategy list, and then you need to pass the full skill assessment. So for childcare center manager, you need to have 3 years full-time working experience to pass the skill assessment. And then you need to have at least 65 points for the skill migration calculation. And then you will need to submit the EOI, expression of interest. But if you only have 65 points, I will say it will be very limited possibility to get invitation from DHA because it's quite competitive at the moment for 1A9 visa. Probably you need to achieve more than 80 points. But as each year, the Department of Home Affairs will give new quota for different visa types. So we will see how it goes after July for this year.
Yeah.
And we will send all the update on all our channels. Then you can subscribe our channels and you will get the first-hand information once we get it from the Department of Home Affairs. For 491, again, it is related to state nomination. It is in regional area. So each state will has the own state nomination requirements. So if you are interested about specific state, just type in the checkbox and then we will contact you after the seminar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question here.
Yeah.
What are the regional areas that you can study that might provide possibilities for extension in the post-graduation visa? Can you name some of them?
Yes, actually, Gold Coast, Adelaide, actually, apart from Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne, all other cities are regional area, but they also define into regional center or more regional area.
Yeah.
So if you would like to get extra 1 year, then you can study in any regional area apart from Brisbane, Sydney, or Melbourne. If you would like to get extra 2 years working visa, probably my colleague, you can just send the link in the checkbox about the exact postcode because the Department of Home Affairs, they have listed a specific postcode. You can apply, which is the regional city, which is the more regional area.
I've heard about of Cairns.
Yes. So Cairns,
of Queensland.
yeah.
Okay.
And again, we
one.
would like to emphasize that the 485 visa extension is only applicable for PSW stream,
which is the
bachelor or
occupation,
master
higher
education.
Yeah.
If you only complete a diploma, even you study in regional area, you will not be able to extend the 485 visa.
Which is only 1.5 years.
Yes, this is only 1.5 years.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think this question is very similar for the DAMA agreement.
Yeah.
If you can name some areas.
Yeah. So for DAMA, actually it starts with the Northern Territory first. So you can probably go to Darwin in Northern Territory. And now in Queensland, we have Far North Queensland, which is Cairns. Yeah. So these two are quite popular, I would say, for DAMA agreements. Then if you are interested in DAMA agreement about the exact requirements, just type in the checkbox, then our counselor can contact you or we can organize the next seminar focused on DAMA agreement.
Yes,
yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Is sponsorship one of the possibilities to apply for a new work visa after 45?
I would say yes and no. So it depends on which employer sponsorship visa you are looking for. So for 482 employer sponsor visa, TSS visa, they also categorize into two different categories. One is if the nominated occupation is on the MLT SSL, then you will be eligible to apply for 4 years 482 visa.
Yeah.
If the nominated occupation is on the STSOL, short-term skill occupation list, you can only apply for 2 years working visa, and it will be no PR pathway for the short-term visa. And for 482 medium and long-term option, you will be eligible to apply for 186 after 3 years from your 482 visa grant date. So for childcare center manager or early childhood teacher, TSS 482 is also one of the possible pathway.
Which is the 4 year.
Yeah. But remember, for childcare center manager, again, the 485 graduate visa will only be 1.5 years. But for 482 TSS visa, the working experience requirement will be at least 2-year full-time working experience.
Tricky again.
Yes, yes. So different visa will require different working experience. So again, if you have any question, just type in the chat box and we can like do a individual counseling with you for more details. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I think this is the question that we are waiting for. After completing the diploma degree, do I still need to study the bachelor degree if I would like to work as a child care manager?
No, no requirements. If you only want to work as the child care center manager, diploma is enough. No need to study bachelor.
And this one, my graduate visa is about to expire.
Yes.
I still don't have the experience on the required position, which is normal. We know this.
Yeah.
Can I apply once more for a student visa to get time and be able to get that experience?
Yes.
And how much possibility I have of this visa being approved? Okay,
so after 45 visa, right?
Yeah.
So after completing the diploma course, you apply for 1.5 years 45 visa, then you can apply for another student visa, but you need to be careful about the GTE requirements.
Yeah.
So for the genuine temporary entry requirements, if you're unsure, then of course you can contact one of our education counselor. We will explain and analyze the risk. And then during your student visa, again, you can accumulate your working experience as well, because for ACE/CQA, they will recognize the part-time working experience as well.
That's the good news.
Yeah, yeah. So how they calculate normally is like if they require 1 year full-time experience for childcare center worker, if you have 2-year relative like part-time experience, we can count it as 1 year full-time experience.
And then you can pass.
Yeah, and you can pass the skill assessment. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all for today.
Yeah. So probably, do we have more questions from the chat box?
I don't think. Just a second.
Yeah, just a second. Yeah. And by the way, we are currently in Brisbane. For those who just joined our seminar for the first time, we are So Edu and Migration. We are one of the largest education migration company here in Brisbane. We have 2 different offices, one in Brisbane CBD and one in Sunnybank. And we have 9 different teams to speak your own language. We have team from Korea, China, Brazil, Latin, Thai, Vietnam, Taiwan, etc. So we can speak the most languages in the world. So if you need any assistance in applying for school or any visa, you can feel free to contact us, and then we can provide you the most professional and efficient advice.
And if you have any question, you can also see the email for your own nationality on the chat box, and you can contact one of our counselors.
Yeah,
I think that's it. Please don't forget to follow us on social media. I have one question, I think, coming up. Okay, I'll give you one more minute.
Yeah.
And don't forget to follow us on social media. You can also see we have 2 questions.
Yeah. We are not leaving. We'll stay online and we will answer all those 2 questions. Yeah. So actually we are waiting for our colleagues to bring us the question, because we can only see our presentation. Sorry, we can't see the checkbox.
One question is, what about childcare worker?
Yeah.
Is sponsorship pathway possible?
Yes, but it is only for 494 for regional employer sponsorship, and it requires 3-year working experience. So as I mentioned, it is on the ROL, regional occupation list. You cannot apply for the 482 except for the DAMA agreement.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. And the other one is there any new region for DAMA area?
I think there will be some updates for the far north Queensland. I think they just updated 2 days ago. They give more concession about some occupation.
Okay.
So if you are interested, just leave your email to our counselor. We can send it out and get in touch with you for the latest update for far north Queensland about the DAMA agreement and the new concession.
everything.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ting.
thank
so
you,
much
Camila.
for-
Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you
all.
all who participated in our last marathon seminar. Thank you.
Hopefully we can bring more another season.
Yes. So if you have any specific topic you would like us to talk about, just send us an email or like put it the comment in our chat box or leave us a messenger and we
kind
can
of
host.
contact.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.